This Sao Paulo Grand Prix betting picks edition of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/SGPN and use code SGPN for a first deposit bonus match up to $100. We're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month and start making smarter bets today. Plus, the MMA Gambling Podcast just launched their YouTube channel. To celebrate, we're giving away an MMA Gambling Podcast hoodie. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/MMA hoodie for all of the details. Get ready for speed.
You just wait, sunshine. You just wait.
Get ready for the passion.
To whom it may concern you.
Get ready for the raw emotion.
Sì, ragazzi! Grazie, grazie, grazie! Dai, forza Ferrari!
Get ready for the F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb. Indeed, it is another episode of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I am Rod Villagomez. We are going to Brazil for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. I am excited for this one because it's another West Coast, Western Coast type of a race where I'm not waking up early to watch these things and getting a chance to actually enjoy it in almost real time, Cody. So loving this Western Hemisphere swing.
Yeah, staying in our own hemisphere. 11 a.m. This is perfect. Obviously, we host the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. NASCAR's championship race is going to be at 3 o'clock, 2 or 3 my time. This race at 11. It's perfect. It'll lead right into it. Have some football on the other TVs. Oh, it's going to be another great Sunday of racing action. I'm pumped. I'm excited.
Indeed. And so look, for you're looking at this one, obviously practice starts here tomorrow as we record this. So it'll probably already be going on today. But in looking back through this race, Cody, and prepping for this race, I noticed that maybe, just maybe, there's a slight chance that we don't see a Max Verstappen run away with this. I mean,
is there rush?
I don't.
What does that look like?
In a world where Max Verstappen doesn't win everything, I don't know. But honestly, like I'm looking through and I'm seeing that this is a little bit of kryptonite for Max Verstappen. There isn't necessarily 15 wins on this track for him. And obviously we'll get into it when we get into the betting picks, but this to me seems like a pretty wide open week. And I'm excited for that.
Yeah, obviously we're getting down to the last couple of races. There's not many left, but of the remaining tracks, with this Vegas and Abu Dhabi, this is probably the chance that he doesn't win one. If he doesn't, now he's still a heavy favorite, of course. He's still probably going to win it, and we'll build our card accordingly. But there is just that little tiny glimmer of hope that maybe somebody else can show up this weekend and get the job done.
It would definitely be nice to finally
or maybe he can start third on the grid and wait till the second corner before he's in the lead.
Listen, I mean, I know I don't want to look too far ahead, but Vegas, that's going to be interesting for everybody because
it's a brand new circuit.
And honestly, too, again, as I have friends that are in Vegas and that are working around that area, shutting the strip down is proving to be a little more interesting than I think they thought it would be.
That's Las Vegas, man. That's it's not easy to shut Vegas down. Come on. It's the city that never sleeps, Rod.
Well, that's New York, but Vegas doesn't
sleep either. Come on.
No, Vegas does not sleep either. And I know from all of my time there, it's definitely a city that hustles and bustles all hours of the night. So yeah, I mean, it'll be very interesting to see that, but this is of course a circuit that they've been on several times over. So it's definitely not foreign to them. And they know what they're doing around this. circuit. It is the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace. This is a 71 lap race. Again, Cody, I'm telling you.
I'm glad you're doing that part, because
the two races where I can sort of sound like I know
Midwestern white guy for me. I don't think that would come off very good if I tried to say what you just said. It would sound nothing like that, is what I'm trying to say.
And it sounds nothing like it's supposed to sound anyway. So for those of you
perfect to me, all right,
who speak Spanish out there, like, yep, he botched it, and that's fine. I get it. But they had the first Grand Prix here in 1973, 71 laps around this 4.309 kilometer track, just under 3 miles for a 305 kilometer race. Valtteri Bottas has the lap record here, 1 minute and 10 seconds, 0.54. He set that in 2018. Cody, the only thing that I can say that this track looks like is when you put the seat up in your car.
Okay.
That's
when
it.
you lean it forward, right?
Yeah, a folded seat.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I'm glad you had something, because I have nothing to contribute to this segment today. I've been staring at this circuit for a while, and yeah, that's the closest thing. Or that, or like a person that's got like their hands folded and they're like, knelt over praying or something. I guess you could go with that, but yeah, I'm gonna go with your folded seat. That's about as good as it gets, I think.
You guys got to watch the YouTube, because you're missing me. You're missing me tilt my head to the
We're
side.
like
to try to
twisting our head. I'm like turning my phone like different directions. Like, if I look at it upside down, is it looking? No, it's no. It's
I love it.
No.
Yeah. So that's basically what we're looking at there. Like we said, practice is in. This is another sprint race weekend, so there is not as many practices, and obviously we're going to sprint qualifying, and then the sprint shootout, and then the sprint itself, and then we'll go into the race on Sunday proper. So, yeah, I mean, listen, this is kind of a straightforward race. There's nothing crazy, no real news right now that I saw anyways, taking any precedence. So
no, not nothing really.
Yeah.
So nothing crazy that's happened. So yeah, I think it's time to get into the race.
I believe it is time to get into the race. But before we do, let me tell you about PrizePicks. You got to love PrizePicks. PrizePicks has so many ways for you to play in your daily fantasy world. It's just another addition. I mean, we've already talked about all of our other sponsors that we've had on this, but now with PrizePicks, you get that ultimate chance to do this again. Basketball season's here, baseball season's here, or now over. But you can pick combo projections across football, basketball. You can use the Specials League on there. It's league created especially for combo predictions, because football is going hot and heavy, because basketball is picking up now. It's literally PrizePicks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. And now I can play during basketball season as well. All you got to do is select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. Not to mention, you can play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill, comedian Andrew Schultz. You can all find them in the community plays under the promo tabs of the app. You can view entries for some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. Tell you right now, PrizePicks even offers you a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players are injured. Football, basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. It's really simple to play. Can make picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Plus, you get quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types. It's what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. PrizePicks offers weekly promotions. You can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Who doesn't love themselves a good Taco Tuesday each and every Tuesday? PrizePicks discounts selected player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. You want in on all of this? Go to prizepicks.com/SGPN. Use code SGPN for a first deposit bonus match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/SGPN, code SGPN. You want one of these snazzy MMA Gambling Podcast hoodie? Well, the MMA Gambling Podcast just launched their YouTube channel, and in honor, we're giving away that snazzy MMA Gambling Podcast hoodie to one lucky winner. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/MMA hoodie to submit your entry today, and make sure to subscribe to the MMA Gambling Podcast on YouTube. All right, it is the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, better known as the Brazilian Grand Prix as well. Don't get it twisted. I know a lot of people are like, what's Brazilian? Yeah, I know, I get it. But Sao Paulo, that's the official name. You know me and how I love to give everybody their proper due, right? That's just
right.
how I roll.
You're really good at that.
So anyways, yeah, we are going to set up our favorite bets as we always do. So Cody, where are we taking them first?
Yeah, I'm going to start off short notice. Hopefully, if you're listening to this before practice one hits off, I'm going to throw out a practice bet this week because I found one that I really like. I know we're a little late recording this, so it is tomorrow. Hopefully you're listening beforehand. But I'm going to take Carlos Sainz to be in the top 3 for practice one plus 250. Like you mentioned, it's the only practice this week. They've got the sprint obviously going on. Last 2 weeks for practice one, 7th in Mexico, 8th in the U.S. Not super great. Charles Leclerc was second though at the U.S., so his teammate at least having a good run. Before that though, second place at Qatar, and that was another one where there's only one practice. He was second at Japan, second at Singapore, second at Italy. And then if you go back a little farther, he was first at Belgium, another one where there's only one practice. He was second at Austria, another one where there's only one practice. He was the fastest in practice one earlier on this season. And so, yeah, I think that Carlos Sainz seems to be one of those drivers that, again, not necessarily the last 2 Grand Prix here, but before that was on a tear of being in the top 3 in practice one. His teammate still did it a couple of weeks ago. I think he can get it done this week. So give me Carlos Sainz, top 3, practice one, plus 250. I believe I found that over on Bet365.
Well, we talk a lot about how Ferrari does unpack and they are fast out of the gate. And for whatever reason, what you notice in F1 practices, and this is something that I've definitely paid a lot more attention to this season, especially because this is like the first full season that we've been covering this as a podcast. So I've taken a much closer look at these practice strategies, and it's just crazy. It's all over the place. I mean, especially like last week where there was just different drivers, completely different drivers, F2 drivers, F3 drivers, like kart drivers driving these cars. And, everybody's got a different strategy.
So funny to me how they do, like, you only get so much practice time and you got these other guys in there, right? Whatever. But yeah, it is funny, the strategy sometimes that play into it.
Yeah. So I definitely, I think for this standpoint, Ferrari, especially now, I think they're going to unload. I think they're going to unload fast. So I'm with you on a Sainz top 3 practice because he's usually up there. It's usually him. It's obviously usually Verstappen, and then it's like a mix of all over those.
I was going to try and find an angle on fastest in practice one, but like it's been Verstappen 4 or 5 weeks in a row, and so it's like they're just clicking on every. Obviously he's won 100 races in the last 2 seasons, clicking on everything. So he's probably going to take up one of the spots, but then it's kind of wide open after that. So you can kind of throw some darts, and Sainz is just one that has consistently been up in there for the most part. Again, he's off the last 2 weeks or last 2 events here, but I think he's due to get back on track where he was with like 5 top 2s before that. So I think he can do it again, and I think plus 250 is a good number for it.
I agree. All right, so I am going to go ahead and take Lando Norris, our favorite guy that's just outside of the just the fastest cars out there. These McLarens, he was fast. I mean, if he wouldn't have started in the rear of the field last week, we could have been talking.
What a freaking run he had, though. My goodness.
Yeah, he started way in the back and just found his way up. And by way in the back, I mean, look, it was 17th, which is way in the back. But obviously with 20 cars, that's only 3 cars.
That's way in the back.
Worked his way up to a 5th place finish. But I'm going to take Lando Norris in this sprint race, and I'm going to put him on the podium. It's plus 140 for him to do that. You look at actually the last few sprint races that he's been in, right? He was 4th in the Austin race, 3rd at Qatar, so he was on the podium for that sprint race, and then 6th place in the previous one in the Belgian Grand Prix as well. So he's been in and around the podium in these sprint races pretty much all season long. His best finishes, obviously, this season he's been on a tear as well. 6 podium finishes in 19 starts, and for somebody that's not Mercedes, for somebody that's not Ferrari, for somebody that's not Red Bull, to crack the podium that many times. I mean, we talked about it with Aston Martin. We talked about it with Alonso earlier in the season. Norris has taken up that mantle of being that guy that's just as fast as the top 3. So much so that the books have started to include McLaren and Aston Martin in the best of the rest category, where they are part of the best, leaving everybody else for the rest. So that should tell you everything you need to know about how fast these McLarens have been. And Lando has been fast in these sprint races too. So I think a plus 140 for him to finish on the podium in the sprint race, it's a pretty good deal. You can find that over on Caesars. So yeah, give me Lando to finish on the podium in the sprint race this week.
Yeah, I love this play, especially at this number. You're getting a good price, plus 140 for it. He's showed up. He's had a lot of speed in races. He's had a lot of speed in sprints. He's looked so good. I hope McLaren just keeps taking that next step. Got a solid lineup with Lando, with Piastri. See Lando getting a win next year, maybe if we get back to more normal F1 racing without Max winning everything. I think he definitely could be a threat, so I'm excited to see that going forward. But I do think he'll be fast this week. I think he'll look good in the sprint. Next up for me, Rod, I'm going to go to Mr. George Russell. I'm going to take him to finish on the podium, plus 200 over on Bet365. Also going to take him to finish in the top 2, 10-1. That price is crazy to me. If he's plus 200 to finish in the top 3, just to finish one spot better, it jumps all the way up to 10-1. So I'm climbing that Russell ladder, if you'll go with that. But 1 year ago, got his very first career win here at this track. Obviously, this is going to be a special place to him forever now, because that is the place where he broke through, where he got that big win. He looked good last year. Mercedes has looked good here for multiple years. Obviously, if you go back far enough with Lewis, they look good everywhere, but they've been really good here. So got his first win here, and Lewis was second in that race as well. So Mercedes was very good. Go back to 2021, Lewis won that race. Valtteri Bottas was third in the Mercedes as well. So again, another strong performance from them over the last 2 seasons on this circuit. He's quietly had kind of 4 top 6 finishes in a row. Nothing to crazy write home about, right? It's not been super impressive, but he's been hanging out there. He's been close. 7 times he's finished in the top 5 this year, so he's kind of hanging around that podium. I know he's only got the 1 podium finish this season, but I think this is the type of track where he can get it. If you go over and you look at the odds for both Mercedes to get on the podium, it's only 3-1, which strikes me as how much the books actually like this, because you have to assume, and it's baked into the number, Max is taking one of those spots. So in their opinion, at only 3-1, I think Mercedes has got a good chance of being the next 2 best cars. These guys have run good here. Obviously, Russell got his win. Mercedes has been good the last couple of seasons. They've been fast, very, very heavy. Not even done talking about him yet. Very heavy on the Russell ladder this weekend. So I'm starting with his podium finish 2-1. His top 2 finish at 10-1. Again, there's some books, and again, depending on your options, we talk about this on NASCAR all the time. Everybody's got different options. Everything's got different things. You can get a winner without Max, so it's the next best guy. But if you got this top 2 available to you, it just leaves it open in case, like you said, it's not always been the best place for Max. He finished 6th here last year. Not like he had a bad season last year where he set the record for most wins in a season, right? And he busted it this year. But it leaves it open with that top 2 finish to Lewis winning or Lando winning or somebody else winning, and you don't get screwed where Russell finishes 2nd, but it didn't happen to be to Max, even if it's Checo or if it's anybody else. So if you have that top 2 option, I think that's just such a better way to go about it than doing winner without Max. If that's your only option, I like that as well. But if you can get the top 2 option, I think it is important to highlight why that is such a good option and the insurance that it does provide you, just in case it's not Max. And hey, if Max has an issue, if his brakes fail, we almost saw that a couple weeks ago. Again, we always say it. You got to bet assuming he's going to win, and that's part of it. But I think Russell can be the next best car anyways. But there's always that chance something goes wrong. He has an issue. He doesn't get it done. So I think that it's good to have that built in with him being on the top 2 as well.
And it allows for anybody to win and him to come in second. I mean, that's
Logan
just
Sargent steals one. Russell finishes 2nd. You're still cashing.
Oh my God, he would have to steal that one. He would have to literally. He would have to
be a
jump,
hell of a heist, Rod.
He'd have to jump into Verstappen's car and actually be Verstappen for a little bit. And even then, I don't know. But more to your point though about Verstappen too. I mean, like he does have that win in 2019. That's fantastic. But like 6th place, 2nd place, 5th place, 3rd place, 10th place. For any other driver in the world, you would read off that stat line and you would go, wow, that's a fantastic run at this track, right? Verstappen, if it's not all ones, then it's a horrible place for him to race. So even second place for him feels like a loss. So I'm definitely with you on the second place bet for Russell. I know, or the top 2 bet. I love that because that allows for him to win, and then you can double up if you play something on him to win, and then you get the top 2 positions, or it allows for somebody that I think is going to win, and then him to finish in second. And then you get the double podium as well. So there's a lot of ways to get in on Mercedes this week. It's a fun little bet to make. So I like it.
Love it.
All right. I'm turning my attention to a team that's farther down the board for this one. This one's the only reason I took it, and I like the number for it. And I also think that this one has a very far outside chance of hitting because of Daniel Ricciardo being so good as of late. I'm going to take AlphaTauri, a team we don't necessarily talk about too often together, right? We talk mainly about Daniel Ricciardo, and that's fine, but both of these guys to be double points finishers at plus 450 over there on, I think I got this on Caesars. I did get this on Caesars. And here's the thing about it too. As far as Daniel Ricciardo, we talked about him this season. A double points finish for him. He only finished in the points once this season, and that was in Mexico City, right? In his 4 races overall. He was 13th in the Belgian Grand Prix, then 16th in Spa, 15th at Austin. Obviously, he didn't race a couple of those because of his hand. But overall on this one, right, he's got a string of 4 points finishes. Now, granted, they were in Red Bull and Aston Martin. I get that, and Renault. But to me, he's as talented a driver as you can get in that AlphaTauri car. I think he proved it last week by finishing 7th and starting 4th. It was a hell of a run for him to get up there in the first place. So again, I'm high on Daniel Ricciardo at least getting a 10th place finish in this race as well. The weak part of this, which is why it's plus 450, is Yuki Tsunoda, right? Yuki Tsunoda, really, honestly, his average finish this season has been 13.9, but the beginning of the season was very hopeful for Tsunoda, right? He finished 11th at Bahrain, 11th at Jeddah, 10th at Melbourne, 10th at Baku, 11th at Miami. So inside and around the points all the beginning of that season. Now he's fallen on some hard times, 12th at Mexico City, but he did have an 8th place at Austin, right? Good run for him there. 15th at Losail, 12th at Suzuka. These are all, if Yuki can just stay out of trouble, if Yuki can not get bumped into, if Yuki can keep his cool, I think he can get at least into the 10th place car as well, leaving Ricciardo somewhere in that 8 to 10 range, 8 to 9, maybe 7th again for a good finish for him. So at 4.5 to 1, I think AlphaTauri needs something, right? They gotta continue to drive on. So I think Daniel Ricciardo is going to at least finish in the top 10. I'm hoping that Yuki Tsunoda does the same.
Yeah, I like it. Obviously, Daniel cashed some big tickets for us last week. What an great starting position. Runs a good race, easily up in that points finish for us. And yeah, Yuki, a guy we talk about a lot, right? But he quietly, 13.7 for where that team is at and what they are. That's not a bad average finish. That's good, and he's done his fair share of times getting up into the points finish. I think it's a good shot to take at the price you're getting it at. Again, any of these guys up front have problems. If a Max has a problem, or the Mercedes or the Ferraris, if Checo takes all of your bets and throws them into the trash can going into the first turn again, shit can happen, and guys fall back, and that opens up some spots as well. And he's pretty good at kind of hanging around in that area, sneaking up into the points there. And obviously, you know how much I love Daniel Ricciardo, so I would love to see it. I do think it's a good bet at the price you're getting it at.
And all teams have to do. Aston Martin has to have some problems. McLaren can have some problems with Piastri. Like, it doesn't take much for Yuki to kind of slide his way into the top 10. So, like I said, at 4.5 to 1, I feel like it's a pretty decent chance to take.
Coming off of momentum too. We talk about momentum means so much in racing. Had that great run with Danny last week. Maybe they can parlay it into both guys having a good week this week.
Fingers crossed. All right, we'll get to more bets But first, let's tell you about Hall of Fame bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bet's revolutionary parlay optimizer tool. You're going to get hit rates broken down by leg as well as expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rates for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark. Join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame bets. We continue building our card. Cody, where are we going next?
Yeah, I'm going to take Esteban Ocon to finish in the points. His number is minus 105 over on Caesars. So it's not juiced up too much. Getting a good, solid price. The last 2 times we've been on the circuit, 8th place and 8th place. Very consistent 8th place average over the last 2 races. Makes the math nice and easy. But 2 solid points finishes for him there. In 3 of the last 4 races. He's also been in the points. He's been running pretty decent. I mean, Alpine continues to be one of those teams we talk about, right? We talk about Gasly a lot as well. And now these guys are they're kind of that next team, right? There's the best of the rest or whatever, and these are one of those teams, and they're kind of the top of that category in most respects. So Ocon, again, solid trend of the last 2 seasons, 8th place in both of them. That's a nice sample size for me there. Points finishes 3 of the last 4 races. I think he just keeps continuing to do it. Alpine, to be honest with you, one of the teams I look at almost every time we do one of these shows when it comes to the research. And all right, what has Ocon, what has Gasly done over the last couple of races at these tracks as we go back to them, and what are their numbers at? And some weeks their numbers aren't great and we can't get on them. This week you're getting a pretty good number, especially for what he checks the "what have you done for me lately" box. He checks the track history, circuit history box as well. So give me Esteban Ocon, points finish minus 105 over on Caesars.
I mean, that I like Esteban Ocon. It's so frustrating when he doesn't turn in a good run because the weeks that you're
it's
on
either like a points finish or he just finishes last. Like there's almost no in between.
Come back with your hood or on it, right? I guess this is the Spartan way. Come back with your hood or on it. Yeah. I like it. I want him to do it. That's all I want. That's all I want out of him is to do it. And listen, so we're not talking about a top 6 this time. We're just talking about a points finish. So I think that's easier for Alpine to get done.
Much easier. Obviously, top 6 is still doable, of course. But this is getting a really good number here on the points finish, being basically just even money. So and all he has to do is finish in the points. It's only better than half the field. Again, anybody has any issues, that helps him out, and he can just do it generically as well. So I like that for him.
I do too. We'll take that. All right. I'm an optimist, so I think everybody's going to finish this race, and it'd be fantastic if everybody did. But I will say that I am going to take one to not complete this race. I'm not rooting against my hometown guy. I'm literally just trying to be smart here because the odds for Logan Sargent to not finish this race, to not complete this race on Caesars, plus 333 over there. On Caesars for Logan Sargent to not complete this race. It's been tough for Logan Sargent, right? I mean, you want to talk about comeback with your hood or on it. Like that's basically his season in a nutshell, right? He's either finished this race, but he's got 7 DNFs this season in his rookie year. 19 starts, 7 DNFs, 3 in the last 4. He has not finished. He's crashed out of Suzuka. He was sick at Losail, right? He couldn't even finish that race. He had to pull over and like get out of the car because he just wasn't feeling well at all. He finished at Austin, but I mean, honestly, I think that was more because he was in the United States than anything. He had to finish that race. I don't know that he finished in 10th, which was great, right? That was a good run, but that's a little home cooking for him there as well. But he didn't finish again last week at Mexico City. So it's just been rough for him to finish races altogether this season. And unfortunately, I don't know that trend is going to continue. I think he's just going to not finish this race either for whatever reason, whether it's by wrecking or mechanical issues, which it just seems to be a lot for them. He didn't finish in the Hungaroring either. He had engine problems in Canada. Like been snake bitten this entire season. And this Williams team as a whole has not necessarily performed the way I think that they want to. Obviously, Mr. Obvious here. Rod states the obvious. Yeah, Williams has not been performing the way they want. And obviously it hasn't gotten any better. And I just don't know that he's going to finish this race. I think we're going to have a DNF for him. And at plus 333, I like that. Plus, if you want, you can even try to double down on it. Bet365 has the first team to retire stats. And at plus 550, Williams is listed there as one of the first driver, or the first teams rather, to retire. I know that it's not necessarily, you can't really predict. That's hard to predict because, Checo could go sailing into turn one.
Bro,
yeah,
what are you doing?
I don't know, man. It's crazy to think that that's that kind of thing, but could very well happen to any Williams car, right? That could happen to them. So to me,
gives you coverage on Sargent sucking, and in case something happens to Albon as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and we've seen Albon. We've seen him do okay. I mean, he finished ninth here last year, but again, it's just a matter of, what are you going to do? He finished ninth place last week, rather, not last year. So yeah, I don't know. To me, it just gives you coverage on both of them. And I like that. So again, plus 550 for Williams, plus 333 for Sargent to not finish this race.
Yeah, and you just wonder, there's a lot swirling around with Sargent. Is he coming back? Like, that's like might be the last seat, actually, that's not yet announced for next season. It seems like the ball is in his court, but then they announced this week there's a couple of rookies are going to be taking a few of the practice sessions at Abu Dhabi in a couple of weeks. Is he feeling a lot of pressure to perform? Does that get to him? Does he not finish this race again? Like he's not done quite a few times this season. I think, especially at the number you're getting it at, I think it's really good. And man, it's happened so much this season, which sucks because obviously as Americans, we would like to see an first American driver we've had in a long time. It's not gone well for him, unfortunately.
And this track is prone to people not finishing. I mean, we've had 4 not finish in 2019. We've had 2 not finish in 2021, and then another 3 that didn't finish in 2022. So if one of them's not going to finish this race, my money's on Logan Sargent.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a good bet, and especially at the number. And then, yeah, I like the Williams one as well, too, with being first team to retire. That's kind of honestly, that's one of those dart throws you could throw out any week, because last week you took a Red Bull. I mean, and I'm sure you got a big number on that. And it's like, yeah, so it can be a dart throw, but it gives you coverage on 2 guys, too, in case Albon's the one with the problem first, or Sargent's things.
It's like fastest lap. You just sort of,
yeah, it's exactly. It's the same thing. I mean, it almost seems random at points.
All right. So obviously, we've talked about how Max Verstappen has won everything this season, may continue to do so. His odds dictate that as well. Runaway favorite. So we always tend to go a different direction with this last box. So let's figure out where we're going with this one.
Yeah. Again, obviously you're not going to lay minus 400 on Max, and good chance he wins, right? But always the chance he doesn't. Like you said, fastest lap. That's been the place we're attacking. Max has gotten a couple here lately, but a majority of the season, it's not always been Max. That purple clock moves around so much. I'm all in on George Russell this week. Going to continue to go all in on him. Give me George Russell, fastest lap. He's 11-1 over on Caesars. Again, he won at this track last year. That's got to have so much confidence in him. This season's just not quite been what he had hoped for. And, you saw had such a great run last season. I think there was only 2 races where he wasn't in the top 6 last season. And, he gets this win at the end of the season. He's carrying the momentum into the offseason. It's kind of just been all season for the most part. I think this is the perfect chance at a track that circuit that Mercedes has been really good at the last couple of years. That Russell got his win last year. He's coming in with all the confidence. I think he can go out and get you the fastest lap. 11-1, 20-1 to win the race, Rod. Give it to me. I think that, just beating Max just straight up almost seems impossible, but it's not completely impossible. And if he starts behind the 8 ball, if he has some type of grid penalty he takes, or whatever the deal ends up being, where even last week he didn't start on the pole. We've seen a couple times, right? He hasn't had the pole the last couple of weeks at these races. So now he still won the races. I get it, but he has to fight for it. The brakes almost failed a couple of weeks ago. We almost cashed our Lewis tickets that maybe wouldn't have cashed later on in the day. Who knows what would have happened there? But all that to the point of a 20-1, you bet it while knowing that it's likely going to be Max winning. But the possibility is there for Russell. I think he's going to be a fast car. I've already made the case for him to be on the podium, made the case for him to be in the top 2. If you can get to the podium, if you get to the top 2, you can also win the race, whether that's beating Max or whether Max has a problem and you take advantage of it. You can't win them all, Rod. Literally. I know he's trying to, but you can't. And so you got to have a little bit of action. And I think, like you said, of these remaining races, this might be the one where you kind of get a really good chance at getting in on George. And this is kind of one of those races where maybe it's not going to be the Max show of every week. And I don't remember which track it was at, but we saw it at one point earlier this season, and it was close, and he barely won it, right? And that was kind of one of the tracks we had circled where maybe it wasn't going to be the greatest day by him. Started, farther back, ends up working his way to the front by the end, but wasn't just a runaway Max from the beginning. Maybe we see a little bit more competition this week. So give me Russell fastest lap 11-1, Russell to win the race 20-1.
Well, Baku obviously was one where Sergio Perez ended up winning.
That's right. Okay. Now, sorry, it's all flooding back to me as you say it. That was the race where you gave out, I think, anyone or the field versus Max, right? It was like plus 450. That was the week we circled. That was the week where it didn't go Max's way. And yes, it still ended up being, that's what I was thinking. It still ended up being a Red Bull, but it wasn't Max. And so, yeah, it's, again, this is one of those weeks that you kind of circle of, yeah, sure, it probably will be him, but what if it's not? Because there's a chance that it couldn't be as well.
So I haven't seen any interviews with him as of late, because he sort of sometimes tips his hand, right? When he's like, I really don't feel good on this track, like at Marina Bay, where Sainz beat him. He wasn't comfortable at that track at all, right? So that was sort of him just conceding to the fact that he wasn't going to be doing well. So I want to go back and look at some interviews, because I think that's a good way to gauge whether or not this is going to be a Max Verstappen week or not. So
yeah. If
it's not, though, I will say the insurance bet for me is the Mercedes teammate of George Russell, and that is Lewis Hamilton. He's 8.5-1 on DK. For Lewis Hamilton, do you really even have to? I mean, if you paid attention to F1 for any length of time, you know how good he is. He's got 2 wins here in his last 4 races, a second place last year to his teammate George Russell. But for Lewis Hamilton, he's got to win one at some point, right? I mean, like, he's just too good to not win another race for the rest of his career and watch Max Verstappen right away with all of this stuff. I know every single week he always says, oh, good job, mates, and we're never going to catch Red Bull and blah, blah, blah. And, it'd be sure nice to catch Red Bull. This is a race, like we just said, where you can circle on the calendar that this may not be where Max Verstappen comes out and dominates, that you actually have a shot to come out and beat him, because somebody did last year. So you think both Mercedes haven't spent a ton of time in whatever simulator or whatever playbook they've got to try to figure out how to do it again, how to replicate last year's success this year on the track. So if you're going to take Russell, I'll take Lewis to win this race. And I think he could do it outright, just like you think Russell can. I think Lewis can as well. So sprinkle something on both of those Mercedes at 8.5-1. And then you said Russell is at 20-1 to win this. So, I mean, again, it's just a matter of, I think this is a race in which Max Verstappen doesn't win, right? Now, you can't necessarily bet that. I mean, you could bet that way, but I mean, it would not surprise me if Max Verstappen came out and led every lap and won, right? That's just the way it's been this season. But if it doesn't happen, I think those 2 Mercedes are in prime position to take advantage of that. So, yeah, I take both of those guys as outrights as well. But my pick was Lewis right out of the jump at 8.5-1 rather.
Yeah, I like it. And again, Mercedes is only 5-1 as the winning manufacturer. They're the next or winning constructor. They're the next behind Red Bull, obviously minus 500. But that, again, it shows you the books are kind of tipping their hand just a little bit, still giving you some pretty solid numbers because of what Max has done, but tipping their hands a little bit more this week than they have in other weeks, where Mercedes might just have a bit of an advantage this week. So I think attacking Mercedes is where we're putting our chips all in at this week. And hopefully we'll come back with a lot more chips next week.
Hope
then
so.
We're going to head to Vegas in a couple of weeks.
Vegas, baby. That's where we push all the chips in.
Oh, that's going to be fun. I'm excited for that one.
I cannot wait for that one. So, all right. Well, then let's get this episode out so people can start putting their practice bets in. So get out your pen and paper. I'll go over the bets for this Sao Paulo Grand Prix from Brazil. Cody started you out with Carlos Sainz as a top 3 car in practice 1. at plus 250 over on Bet365. I said Lando was going to finish on the podium of the sprint race at plus 140 on Caesars. Cody gave you Russell as a podium finisher at plus 200, or a top 2 car at plus 10 to 1 rather on 365. I said that AlphaTauri could sneak their way into a double points finish this week on Caesars at plus 450. Cody gave you Esteban Ocon as a points finisher at minus 105 on Caesars. I said, sadly, I don't think Logan Sargent is going to finish this race at plus 333 on Caesars, and said that maybe Williams would be the first team to retire at plus 550 on 365. Cody gave you George Russell as the fastest lap at 11 to 1 on Caesars and 20 to 1 to win. I gave you his teammate Lewis Hamilton at 8.5 to 1 on DraftKings to win the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Cody, we're getting close. Practice is only 20 some odd hours away, 20 hours and 15 minutes away.
Beautiful.
We're
almost there. So get your practice bet in quickly. And then, let's go win some money this weekend.
Let's go win some money. All right, Cody, as we wrap things up, let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Follow me on X at @Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my work over there. Make sure you check out the NASCAR Gambling Podcast as well. This is always available on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast YouTube page. Also, if you want to see Rod's beautiful face, you can head on over there, and we include the F1 episodes in that feed.
Indeed. My nod to Bruce Bochy. Congratulations on your championship there. You go 4th one. I know it's with another team, but whatevs. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, whether it's in between media. Of course, like Cody said, check out the NASCAR Gambling Podcast as well. All right, we'll turn you loose, everyone. We'll see you next week for Las Vegas, baby. Until then, let's go racing and let it ride.